I'm Grace. I'm 22 years old, and 2 weeks ago, I passed out on stage in front of 3,000 people. That was supposed to be the biggest day of my life. I was about to give my valedictorian speech. Instead, I woke up to a doctor telling me they had found something serious in my brain and that I needed an emergency procedure right away. They called my parents. No one answered. 3 days later, when I finally opened my eyes, I was surrounded by machines, tubes, and the quiet sound of monitors. But the first thing I saw wasn't my family waiting beside me. It wasn't my mom crying. It wasn't my dad holding my hand. It was an Instagram post from my sister. The entire family was smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower. The caption said, "Family trip in Paris. Finally, no stress, no drama." I didn't say anything. I didn't comment. I didn't call them. Not until 65 missed calls from my dad appeared on my screen, followed by one message. "We need you. Answer immediately." That was the moment I understood something. They weren't calling because they were worried about me. They weren't calling because they missed me. They were calling because they needed something. Before I go on, if this story feels worth your time, please like and subscribe, but only if you truly want to know how it ends. And if you're watching right now, leave a comment telling me where you're from and what time it is there. Now let me take you back 4 weeks, to the day everything started falling apart. 4 weeks before graduation, I was standing in my childhood kitchen, watching my mom flip through a pile of wedding magazines. Not for me, obviously, for Meredith. My older sister had just gotten engaged, and suddenly, every conversation in our house revolved around her wedding plans, her schedule, her happiness, and her future. "Grace, can you pick up the napkin samples from the printer tomorrow?" Mom asked without even looking at me. "Meredith is too busy with dress fittings." "I have finals, Mom." "You'll manage. You always do." And that was the problem with being the reliable daughter. People stop asking if you can handle things. They just assume you will. For 4 years, I had been handling everything. I worked 25 hours a week at a coffee shop, kept a 4.0 GPA, and paid for my own tuition with scholarships, tips, and whatever money I could save. Meredith, on the other hand, had her entire education paid for by our parents, every semester. No questions, no guilt, no lectures. "Mom, I actually wanted to talk to you about graduation," I said, trying to sound casual. "I need something to wear for the ceremony. Maybe we could go shopping this weekend?" She finally looked up, but only for a second. Her eyes drifted right back to the magazines. "Sweetie, you're so good at finding deals online. I'm sure you'll figure something out. I need to focus on your sister's engagement party. It's in 2 weeks. But graduation is—" "Grace," her voice sharpened. "Your sister is bringing her fiancé's parents. Everything needs to be perfect." So I nodded. I always nodded. Later that evening, I was folding laundry in my old room when I heard Mom on the phone with her friend Linda. "Oh, the graduation? Yes, she's valedictorian. Can you believe it?" There was a pause, then a laugh. "But honestly, the timing is terrible. Meredith's engagement party is that same week, and that takes priority. Grace understands. She's always been so independent." Independent. That was the word they used when they meant forgettable. That night, I called the only person who ever asked how I was really doing. Grandpa Howard answered on the second ring. "Gracie, I was just thinking about you." Something in my chest softened. "Hey, Grandpa." "Tell me everything. How are finals? How's the speech coming along?" I sat on my bed with the phone pressed to my ear, and for the next 20 minutes, I actually talked. I told him about my thesis, about the speech I had rewritten 6 times, and about how terrified I was to stand in front of thousands of people. When I finally stopped talking, he asked, "Grace, do you have your dress yet? Shoes? Do you need anything?" My throat tightened. "I'm fine, Grandpa, really." He went quiet for a moment, not an empty silence, the kind of silence that meant he didn't believe me. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you," he said softly. "You know that, right? She always said you had her spirit." I never met Grandma Eleanor. She was gone before I was born. But I had seen pictures of her. Everyone said I looked just like her. Same dark hair, same stubborn chin. "I'll be there, Grace," Grandpa said. "Front row. I wouldn't miss it for the world." "Thanks, Grandpa," I whispered, my voice cracking. "That means a lot. And Grace, I have something for you. A gift. Your grandmother wanted you to have it when you graduated. I've been holding on to it for years. Before I could ask what it was, Meredith walked into my room without knocking. Grace, did you use my dry shampoo? I can't find it anywhere. I covered the phone. I don't use your stuff, Meredith. She rolled her eyes and lifted her hand just enough for her engagement ring to catch the light. Whatever. Oh, and congratulations on the valedictorian thing, I guess. Then she left. Grandpa heard all of it. He didn't say a word, but somehow his silence said everything. 1 week before graduation, I was running on 4 hours of sleep, 3 cups of coffee, and pure determination. Finals were over. My thesis was submitted. I had been working double shifts at the coffee shop because rent was due, and I refused to ask my parents for money. They always turned help into a debt they could bring up later. We helped you with rent that one time, remember? My head had been pounding for 3 straight days. I told myself it was stress. It was always stress. Mom called while I was wiping down tables after closing. Grace, I need you home this weekend. The engagement party is Saturday and I need help setting up. Mom, I'm working. Call in sick. Meredith needs you. I gripped the phone until my knuckles turned pale. What about what I need? Silence. Then she sighed. Grace, don't be dramatic. It's 1 weekend. Your sister only gets engaged once. And I only graduate once, I thought. Valedictorian, 4 years of perfect grades, long shifts, sleepless nights, and pushing myself past every limit I had. But I didn't say that. I never said that. Fine, I said. I'll be there. I hung up, and the ache behind my eyes grew sharper. For a second, the room seemed to tilt. I grabbed the counter to steady myself. You okay? My coworker Jaime asked. Yeah, I said quickly. Just tired. That night, my nose started bleeding and didn't stop for 15 minutes. I told myself it was the dry air. I told myself it was nothing. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text from Meredith. Don't forget to pick up the custom napkins and wear something nice. Tyler's parents will be there. Not, how are you? Not, thank you for helping. Just another order. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dad. Can you pick up Aunt Carol from the airport Friday? Your mom and I are busy getting things ready for Meredith's party. I pulled over to the side of the road and sat there, staring at the message. My hands were shaking, and I couldn't tell if it was anger, exhaustion, or something I didn't want to admit was happening. Later that evening, Rachel showed up at my apartment without warning, carrying Thai food and wearing the kind of worried expression that immediately made me nervous. You look awful, she said, walking past me into the kitchen. Thanks, love you too. Rachel Miller had been my best friend since freshman orientation. She was the only person who had ever seen me fall apart over my family. She was also painfully honest, which was both the best and worst thing about her. Grace. She put the food on the counter and turned to face me. When was the last time you actually slept? And I mean real sleep. I sleep. Liar. She crossed her arms. I talked to Jaime. She said you almost collapsed at work yesterday. I just got dizzy. It's finals stress. It's family stress. Her voice softened. Grace, you are wearing yourself down for people who might not even show up to your graduation. They're coming. Are they? I opened my mouth to defend them, then closed it again. Because the truth was, I didn't know. Mom hadn't mentioned graduation in weeks. Dad kept forgetting the date. Meredith still didn't even know I was valedictorian. They'll come, I said, but even I could hear how weak it sounded. It's my graduation. Rachel sat across from me. Babe, in 4 years, they haven't come to a single award ceremony. Not one. Remember when you won that teaching fellowship? Who was sitting in the audience? You and Grandpa. Exactly. She reached across the table and took my hand. Grace, you don't have to burn yourself out trying to keep people comfortable when they don't even notice what it costs you. My eyes started to sting and I blinked fast. That night, after Rachel left, I was brushing my teeth when my vision suddenly doubled. I gripped the sink and waited for the room to steady. The headache was back. Worse this time. I should see a doctor, I thought. But there was no time. Meredith's engagement party was tomorrow. So I took 2 more ibuprofen and went to bed. A few minutes later, my phone lit up with a text from Rachel. If anything happens, call your grandpa. He's the only one who actually shows up for you." I didn't answer, but I didn't delete the message either. The next day was Meredith's engagement party. I had been on my feet for 6 hours, setting up chairs, arranging flowers, refilling glasses, and playing the role I had somehow been assigned at birth. The invisible support system. The backyard looked perfect. White lights hung between the oak trees. A 3-tiered cake sat in the center of the dessert table, probably costing more than my monthly rent. 40 guests in expensive outfits laughed, toasted, and celebrated my sister's future. No one asked about mine. "Grace, more champagne over here," Mom called from across the lawn. I picked up another bottle and moved through the crowd, smiling even though my head was pounding. Meredith stood near the fountain with Tyler's arm around her waist. She was glowing, laughing, and completely in her element. "Everyone, this is my little sister," she said, suddenly pulling me into the spotlight. "Grace does everything around here. Seriously, I don't know what we'd do without her." A few people clapped politely, some smiled. Then Meredith leaned closer, just loud enough for people nearby to hear. "She's so good at helping. She's going to be a teacher. Can you imagine? Spending all day with little kids and runny noses?" People laughed. Not loudly, just enough to make my face burn. I kept smiling anyway. My cheeks actually hurt from it. "Oh, and she's graduating next week," Meredith added like she had almost forgotten. "Vala something. What's it called again?" "Valedictorian," I said quietly. "Right. That." Meredith waved her hand. "She's always been the smart one. But smart doesn't buy Louis Vuitton, does it?" More laughter. I excused myself and went into the kitchen, where I leaned against the counter and forced myself to breathe. Through the window, I noticed an older man watching from the yard. Mr. Patterson, one of Grandpa's former colleagues. His expression was impossible to read. Then my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your grandfather should know how your family treats you." I looked up. Mr. Patterson raised his glass slightly in my direction, then turned away. My hands were trembling. But this time, I wasn't sure it was only from embarrassment. After the party, I was alone in the kitchen, elbow deep in dirty dishes while everyone else sat in the living room, admiring engagement photos. Mom walked in with flushed cheeks and a satisfied smile. "Grace, I have wonderful news." I didn't turn around. "What is it?" "We're going to Paris, the whole family. Tyler is treating us to celebrate the engagement." My hands froze in the soapy water. "Paris? When?" "Next Saturday. We fly out Friday night." Friday night. Graduation was Saturday morning. Slowly, I turned to face her. "Mom, my graduation is Saturday." She waved her hand like I had mentioned a minor scheduling issue. "I know, sweetie, but the flights were already booked when we realized. Tyler found such a good deal." "You're missing my graduation for a vacation?" "Don't say it like that." Mom frowned. "It's not just a vacation, it's for your sister." "I'm valedictorian, Mom. I have to give a speech." "And you'll be wonderful. You don't need us there, Grace. You've always been so self-sufficient." I stared at her, waiting for her to hear what she had just said, waiting for even the smallest sign that something had clicked. Nothing did. "Dad agrees with this?" As if he had been listening the whole time, Dad appeared in the doorway. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Grace, your mother and I discussed it," he said. "Meredith needs family support right now. She's going through a big life change." "And graduating as valedictorian isn't a big life change?" "You're strong," Dad said, sounding tired. "You don't need us the way your sister does." The room seemed to tilt. I reached for the counter. "Grace?" Mom's voice suddenly sounded far away. "You look pale." "I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. The edges of the room were starting to blur. The pain in my head was unbearable now, a sharp pressure building behind my left eye. "I need to go," I managed to say. "Early shift tomorrow." I walked out before either of them could answer. In the car, I sat in the dark for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel and trying to steady my breathing. Then I drove back to my empty apartment and broke down until there was nothing left in me. 3 days before graduation, I was lying on my apartment floor because even standing up felt impossible. Rachel's voice came through the speakerphone. "They're skipping your graduation for a trip? Seriously?" "It's for Meredith's engagement." "Grace, stop defending them." I'm not defending them. I'm just accepting reality. That's worse. I stared at the ceiling. There was a water stain above me, shaped almost like a broken heart. Of course there was. 4 years? Rachel said. 4 years of working yourself into the ground and they can't move one trip? Apparently not. She went quiet for a moment. Then her voice softened. How are you feeling? Physically, I mean. You sounded strange on the phone yesterday. I'm fine. Grace, really, I'm just tired. That night, I woke up at 3 a.m. with the most intense headache I had ever felt. The pain was so strong that a small sound escaped me before I could stop it. I stumbled into the bathroom. My nose had started running again, only this time it was much worse. It wouldn't stop. I sat on the cold tile floor, waiting for it to slow down. 15 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, it eased. I looked at myself in the mirror. Dark circles, pale skin, hollow cheeks. When had I started looking like a stranger? I should see a doctor. The thought came clearly this time, but graduation was in 3 days, and I still had a speech to memorize. So I texted Rachel, I'm fine, going back to sleep. Then I opened my photos and scrolled until I found one from last Christmas, Grandpa and me standing side by side. He was the only one looking at the camera, the only one standing close enough to me to make it feel like I belonged there. I thought about what Rachel had said. If anything happens, call your grandpa. He's the only one who actually shows up for you. So I saved his number as my second emergency contact, just in case. Then I took more pain medicine and told myself the same thing I had been telling myself for years. 3 more days. I can make it 3 more days. If you've ever felt invisible to the people who were supposed to love you most, if you've ever been the person everyone depends on but no one truly sees, comment invisible below. I see you. I was you. And if you want to know what happened at my graduation, what really happened when I stepped onto that stage, stay with me, because the next part is something I will never forget. One day before graduation, Grandpa Howard called while I was practicing my speech for what felt like the 100th time. Grace, are you ready for tomorrow? As ready as I'll ever be. I set my index cards down. Are you sure you can make it? I know the drive is long. Nothing could keep me away. I could hear the smile in his voice. I'm leaving tonight and staying at a hotel near campus. I want to be there early. My throat tightened. Grandpa, you don't have to do that. I want to. Besides, I need to give you something. He paused. Something your grandmother wanted you to have. Grandma? She left it for you before she passed. Made me promise I would wait until you graduated college. She knew you would make it, Grace. Even before you were born, she knew. I didn't know what to say. What is it? You'll see tomorrow. Just know this. Your grandmother and I have always believed in you. Even when... His voice faded. Even when what? Even when other people forgot how special you were. A long silence settled between us. Then he said, Grace, did your father ever tell you I offered to help pay for your tuition? I froze. What? That was the first time I had ever heard anything about it. No, I said slowly. He always told me you couldn't afford to help both of us. Grandpa let out a quiet sound, somewhere between a sigh and a bitter laugh. Is that what he told you? Grandpa, what do you mean? Tomorrow, he said gently. We'll talk after the ceremony. For now, just remember this. You are not alone, Grace. You never were. When the call ended, I sat there staring at my phone, more confused than before. Grandpa had money. He had offered to help me. So where had it gone? The questions circled in my mind, one after another. My head was still throbbing, but there was no room to think about that now. Tomorrow was supposed to be the biggest day of my life. I just had to get through one more night. Graduation morning, I woke up with my head pounding and a message from Mom. Just landed in Paris. Have a great graduation, sweetie. So proud of you. Attached was a selfie, the whole family at Charles de Gaulle Airport. Meredith posing for the camera, Dad giving a thumbs up, Mom smiling like everything was perfect, like she hadn't chosen to miss the most important morning of my life. I didn't reply. Rachel picked me up at 9. The second she saw me, she frowned. Grace, you look gray, like actually gray. I'm nervous. It's fine. It is not fine. When did you last eat? I had coffee. That is not food. She made me eat half a granola bar while she drove. I managed 3 bites before my stomach turned. Campus was already full of energy. Families were everywhere. Balloons, flowers, proud parents taking photos, people laughing and hugging in the sunlight. I tried not to look too closely. In the staging area, I checked my phone one last time. Another message from Mom. Send pictures. We want to see everything. They wanted to see everything. They just didn't want to be there to witness any of it. I was about to put my phone away when I noticed my university emergency contact form. I had filled it out freshman year and never changed it. Primary contact, Douglas Donovan, father. Secondary contact, Pamela Donovan, mother. On impulse, I opened the form and added another name. Howard Donovan, grandfather. I didn't know why I did it. It just felt right. Then I saw him. Grandpa was already in the front row, seated and waiting. He lifted his hand and waved. In his lap was a manila envelope. I waved back. For the first time all week, I felt like I could breathe. Grace Donovan? A stage manager approached me. You're up in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. I could do this. I just had to stay on my feet long enough to finish. 3,000 people filled the space in front of the stage. The sun was blazing. My cap felt too tight, and the black gown trapped the heat around me like a blanket I couldn't take off. Then my name echoed through the speakers. And now, our valedictorian, Grace Donovan. The applause rose around me, loud, overwhelming. I walked to the podium, one careful step at a time. The lights were blinding. I held the microphone and searched the crowd until I found Grandpa. He was smiling proudly. Rachel sat beside him with her phone raised, recording every second. Next to them were 2 empty seats, reserved for family. No one had claimed them. I cleared my throat. Thank you all for being here today. I stand before you not just because of grades or test scores, but because of the people who believed in me. The words were there. I had practiced them 1,000 times, but something was wrong. The stage started to tilt. My vision tightened until the entire world shrank into one small point. The microphone slipped in my hand. I heard my own voice, but it sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Believed in me when I couldn't. Then, the pain behind my eyes became unbearable, sharp, blinding, impossible to ignore. The world spun. I saw Grandpa's face in the crowd. His proud smile disappeared, replaced by fear. I saw Rachel jump to her feet. I saw the 2 empty seats beside them. And then I saw nothing. My body hit the stage floor with a sound I would never forget. People were shouting. Somewhere far away, voices echoed around me. Call emergency services. Get a doctor. Someone contact her family. Hands touched my face. Rachel's voice shook as she leaned over me. Grace, can you hear me? Then I felt Grandpa's hand wrap around mine. I'm here, sweetheart, I'm right here. I tried to answer. I tried to tell them I was okay, but the darkness kept pulling me under. The last thing I heard before everything faded was a stranger's urgent voice. We're calling her parents now. Does anyone have their number? They won't answer, I thought. And then everything went black. This next part of the story is something I didn't see for myself. Rachel told me later, when I was finally strong enough to hear it. The ambulance arrived 14 minutes later. I was still unconscious when they took me to the hospital. Once we got there, everything happened fast. First came the scan, then another test, then doctors started moving with the kind of urgency that makes everyone in the room stop breathing. A serious mass was pressing against my frontal lobe. The neurosurgeon explained it to Rachel and Grandpa in the waiting room. We need to operate immediately. Operate? Rachel's voice broke. Right now? Within the hour, the doctor said. We need family consent. Rachel took my phone and found my parents' number. First call, straight to voicemail. Second call, voicemail again. Third call, nothing. Please, Rachel said into the phone, her voice shaking. Grace is in the hospital. This is an emergency. Call us back. Still nothing. Then Grandpa tried. He called my father directly. Douglas picked up on the 5th ring. Dad, we're at the airport. We're about to board. Grace collapsed at graduation, Grandpa said. She's in the hospital. They found something serious and she needs surgery in 40 minutes. There was silence on the other end. Then my father spoke, and somehow he sounded calm. Dad, we're about to take off. Can you handle things? We'll call when we land. Rachel told me Grandpa's face went completely still. "Your daughter is about to have emergency brain surgery," he said slowly. "And you're asking me to handle it?" "Dad, the flight is 12 hours. By the time we get back, she'll probably be out of surgery anyway. There's nothing we can do from here." Grandpa was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Douglas, listen to me very carefully. If you get on that plane, do not expect me to forget it. But my father got on that plane. They all did." Grandpa signed the consent forms as my emergency contact, and when they wheeled me into the operating room, only 2 people were waiting for me: my grandfather and my best friend. My family was 30,000 feet in the air, flying toward Paris while I was fighting to come back. I woke up 3 days later. The first thing I saw was white ceiling, white walls, white sheets. The second thing I saw was Grandpa asleep in the chair beside my bed, still wearing his suit from graduation. The third thing I saw was Rachel curled up on a small hospital cot in the corner, with dark circles under her eyes. I tried to speak, but my throat felt dry and rough. Rachel stirred, opened her eyes, and froze. "Grace." In seconds, she was at my bedside, tears running down her face. "Oh my God, Grace." Grandpa woke up too. The relief on his face nearly broke me. "My girl," he whispered. "My brave girl." I tried to form the words. What happened? Rachel and Grandpa looked at each other. That kind of look tells you something before anyone says a word. "You had a brain tumor," Rachel said carefully. "They removed it. The doctors say you're going to be okay." "Surgery?" 3 days ago. You've been unconscious for 3 days." I turned my head and saw my phone charging on the nightstand. "My parents?" Another look passed between them. Rachel picked up the phone and handed it to me. "Grace, maybe you should wait." But I was already opening Instagram, and there it was, posted 18 hours earlier, a photo of my entire family, Mom, Dad, and Meredith, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower at sunset. The caption said, "Family trip in Paris. Finally, no stress, no drama. #blessed family time." 247 likes, 32 comments, everyone saying how beautiful they looked. I scrolled through the other pictures: champagne at a cafe, Meredith in an expensive dress, Dad smiling over a plate of croissants. Not one mention of me, not one. "Grace," Rachel said gently, "they know you're in the hospital. Your grandpa called them." I looked at Grandpa. His jaw was tight. "They know?" He nodded once. I looked back at the photo. No stress, no drama. That was what I was to them. A problem? An inconvenience. I closed the app. I didn't cry. I didn't have enough strength left to cry. 4 days after surgery, I was getting stronger. The doctor said the tumor was benign. They had caught it just in time. I didn't post anything. I didn't comment on Meredith's photos. I didn't call my parents to confront them. I just stayed there, healing, breathing, trying to understand how people who were supposed to love me could choose not to show up when it mattered most. Grandpa visited every day. Rachel practically lived in my hospital room. The nurses knew them both by name. "You need to eat more," Grandpa said one afternoon, pushing a container of soup toward me. "I'm not hungry." "Grace Eleanor Donovan, you will eat this soup or I will feed it to you myself." For the first time in days, I almost smiled. Almost. That evening, Rachel went home to shower. Grandpa fell asleep in the chair beside me. For the first time, I was alone with my thoughts. That was when my phone lit up. 1 missed call from Dad. Then 5, then 20, then 65. My heart jumped. Then the messages started coming in. "Dad, Grace, call me back, important." "Dad, answer your phone." "Dad, we need to talk now." "Dad, Grace, this is urgent. Call immediately." "Mom, honey, call your father, please." Meredith, "Grace, what did you do? Dad is freaking out." I stared at the screen. 65 missed calls. 23 messages. Not one asked how I was feeling. Not one said they were sorry. Not one said they loved me, just, "We need you." Answer immediately. I showed Grandpa when he woke up. His face darkened. "They know," he said quietly. "Know what?" He took a deep breath. "Grace, there's something I need to tell you. Something about why they're really calling." "What do you mean?" "They're not calling because they're worried about you," he said, his voice heavy. "They're calling because I told them about the gift. Your grandmother's gift, and now they realize what they might lose. My whole body went cold. Grandpa, what gift? He looked at me with tired, sad eyes. It's time you knew the truth. Grandpa pulled his chair closer and took my hand. 22 years ago, when you were born, your grandmother and I made a decision. We opened an education savings account in your name. For college? Not exactly. He shook his head. We thought your parents would take care of college. That's what we told ourselves anyway, Grandpa said. But this account was different. It wasn't for tuition. It was meant to be a graduation gift. A way for you to start your life on your own terms. Your grandmother used to call it your freedom fund. I stared at him. How much are we talking about? Grandpa hesitated. Enough to buy a small home, or start a business, or put a serious down payment on whatever future you wanted for yourself. My head felt light. That's life-changing money. Yes, he said softly. That was the point. But Dad told me you couldn't help with tuition. He said you only helped Meredith because Meredith asked? Grandpa's voice turned bitter. That's what he told you? I nodded slowly. Grandpa looked away for a moment, like he was trying to control himself. Your father asked me for help with both of your educations, so I gave it. I wrote 2 checks, one for you, one for Meredith, same amount. The room went still. Then where did mine go? Grandpa didn't answer right away. I don't know for certain, he said, but I have a pretty good idea. He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of an old bank statement. 2 withdrawals, same date, same amount, 4 years ago. Your parents cashed both checks, he said. Meredith's money went toward her tuition. And mine? The question barely came out. I thought about the kitchen renovation, Mom's designer bags, the vacations they somehow always found money for. They spent it, I whispered. I believe they did. And the Freedom Fund? I asked. They didn't know about that? No, I never told them. Grandpa's eyes softened. I knew, Grace. Even then, I knew they treated you differently. That money was always meant to go directly to you. No middleman, no excuses, no one standing between you and what your grandmother wanted you to have. But now they know. He nodded. I told your father while you were in the hospital. I was angry. I told him that if he didn't come home, I would make sure you received every bit of it without them ever touching a cent. He sighed. I shouldn't have said it that way, but I was furious. I looked down at my phone. So that's why they're calling? Yes. Not because of me. Grandpa's hand tightened around mine. Because of the money. They arrived the next afternoon. I heard them before I saw them. Mom's heels clicked down the hospital hallway, sharp and fast. Her voice carried too loudly. Which room? Donovan. Grace Donovan. Rachel stood from the chair beside my bed. I should go. Stay, I said immediately. She nodded and moved near the window. The door opened and Mom rushed in first, wearing the exact expression she used when other people were watching. Perfect concern, perfect worry, perfect mother. Grace, baby, she said. We came as fast as we could. She leaned down to hug me. I didn't hug her back. You came as fast as you could, I repeated. 5 days later? The flights were complicated. You posted from the Louvre yesterday. For half a second, her face changed. Then she recovered. We were trying to make the best of a difficult situation. Dad walked in behind her. He looked tired, but he still wouldn't meet my eyes. Then Meredith came in, holding shopping bags, actual shopping bags, into my hospital room. Hey, Grace, she said, stopping near the door. You look better than I thought you would. From the corner, Rachel made a sound under her breath. I didn't look at her, but I could feel her anger from across the room. Meredith, I said calmly, I just had a major operation. I know, she said like we were talking about bad weather. It's so crazy. Anyway, we cut the trip short, so you're welcome. Silence filled the room. Mom cleared her throat. Grace, sweetheart, we need to talk as a family. Her eyes shifted toward Rachel. Privately. Rachel stays. Grace. Rachel was here when I woke up. Rachel was here before the operation. Rachel stayed when you left, so Rachel stays. Mom's mouth tightened. Before she could argue, the door opened again. Grandpa Howard stepped inside. The room changed instantly. Dad's shoulders stiffened. "Dad," he said. "Douglas." Grandpa's voice was cold. "Pamela, Meredith." He walked straight to my bedside and took my hand. "I see you finally found time in your schedule." Mom started to speak. Grandpa cut her off. "Don't. Just don't. If your family has ever come running back, not because they missed you, but because they needed something from you, comment 'they came back' below. I know that feeling. I know how empty it makes you feel. But what happened next in that hospital room changed everything, because for the first time in my life, I was finally ready to say what I should have said years ago. So stay with me, because this is where everything becomes clear. Dad tried to speak first. "Dad, can we talk about this rationally?" "Rationally," Grandpa repeated. His voice was quiet, which somehow made it more powerful. "Your daughter collapsed on stage. She was taken to the hospital. Doctors said she needed an immediate operation. The hospital tried to reach you over and over again. We were on a plane." "No, you weren't." Grandpa's eyes locked on him. "You were at the gate. I spoke to you, Douglas. You chose to board anyway." Mom stepped forward. "Howard, this is a family matter." "Grace's family," Grandpa said. "She is my family, and for 22 years, I have watched you treat her like she was optional." "That is not true," Mom snapped. "We love Grace." "You love what Grace does for you," Grandpa said. "There's a difference." Then he turned to my father. "Tell me, Douglas, when is Grace's birthday?" Dad blinked. "March." He paused. "No, April." "October 15th, I said quietly. "It's October 15th, Dad." For once, he actually looked ashamed. Grandpa continued. "What's her favorite book? What's her best friend's name? What job did she accept after graduation?" No one answered. Rachel's jaw tightened. She knew every answer. She had known them for years. Meredith rolled her eyes. "Grandpa, this is ridiculous. We didn't fly all the way back to play 20 questions." "No," Grandpa said. "You flew back because you heard about the money." That one word changed the entire room. Mom's face went pale. "We came because Grace was in the hospital. You came because I told Douglas that Grace would receive her inheritance directly, without either of you involved." Grandpa's eyes hardened. "Funny how, after years of barely noticing her, you suddenly became very interested in her well-being." "That inheritance belongs to the family," Mom said. "That inheritance belongs to Grace." Grandpa's voice rose for the first time. "Her grandmother left it for her. Not for Meredith's destination wedding, not for your renovations, not for whatever else you decided mattered more than your own daughter." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. I watched something shift behind her eyes. A calculation. A decision. And suddenly I felt colder than I had all day. "You want the truth, Howard?" Mom's voice changed. It was sharper now. Raw. "Fine. You want the truth?" Dad reached for her arm. "Pam." She pulled away. "No. He wants to make me the villain, so let's say it." Then she turned to me. Her eyes were wet, but not with guilt, with something older, something she had been carrying for years. "You want to know why I could never get close to you, Grace?" I didn't move, because every time I look at you, I see her. My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Who?" "Eleanor," Mom said. She didn't say my grandmother's name with love. She said it like it still hurt. "Your precious grandmother. The woman who spent 30 years making me feel like I was never good enough for her son." Grandpa went completely still. "When I first came into this family," Mom continued, "Eleanor looked at me like I didn't belong. 26 years of little comments. 26 years of, 'Douglas, are you sure about this one?' 26 years of never measuring up." I couldn't speak. "And then she was gone," Mom said, her voice breaking into a bitter laugh. "And I thought maybe, finally, I could breathe. Maybe I could finally be accepted." She looked at me then. "But then you were born, Grace, and you looked just like her. Same eyes, same stubborn chin, same face, everything." "That isn't Grace's fault," Rachel said sharply. "I know that," Mom snapped. Then her voice dropped. "I know that, but every time I looked at her, I saw Eleanor looking back at me, judging me, reminding me that I was never enough. I couldn't get past it. I just couldn't. She covered her face. Some part of me wanted to feel sorry for her. Maybe I did, but another part of me could only think one thing. I was a baby. I was a child. I spent 22 years wondering what was wrong with me, wondering why my own mother could never love me the way she loved my sister, and now I had the answer, because I had the face of a woman I had never even met. "Mom," I said slowly, "I'm not Grandma Eleanor." "I know." "Do you?" I asked, "because I've spent my whole life paying for something I never did." She didn't answer, and somehow that was the loudest answer in the room. I pushed myself up against the pillows. My body felt weak, but my voice didn't. "Mom," I said, "I understand now. You had a painful history with Grandma. You felt judged, you felt rejected, and that hurt you." For 1 second, hope flickered in her eyes, but that was never my fault. The hope disappeared. For 22 years, I tried to be perfect grades, no trouble, no asking for too much. I worked myself into exhaustion so you wouldn't have to pay for my education. I showed up for every family event, every holiday, every party, every crisis. "Grace," I'm not finished. My voice stayed calm. "I did all of that because I thought maybe, if I was useful enough, successful enough, quiet enough, you would finally see me. Maybe you would finally love me the way you love Meredith." Meredith shifted uncomfortably. "But I was wrong," I said. "Because you were never really looking at me. You were looking through me. You were seeing her." Then I turned to Dad. "And you? You watched it happen for 22 years and you did nothing." He flinched. "Grace, I didn't know how to— "How to what?" I asked. "Stand up for your daughter? Ask your wife why she pulled away every time I entered the room? It was complicated." "No," I said quietly. "It really wasn't. You chose whatever was easiest, and the easiest choice was letting me be the one who got hurt." Grandpa squeezed my hand. I looked at each of them. Mom was crying silently. Dad stared at the floor. Meredith stood with her arms crossed, defensive even now. "I don't hate you," I said, "any of you, but I can't keep pretending this is normal. I can't keep being the invisible one." Dad finally looked up. "What do you want?" I took a slow breath. "I want you to see me as a person, not as a ghost, not as a problem, not as someone who exists to make everyone else's life easier." Then I met his eyes. "And if you can't do that, then I'll grieve the family I wished I had and build a new one without you at the center of it." No one spoke. I turned to Grandpa. "I want to talk about Grandma's gift." He nodded and pulled the manila envelope from his jacket. The same envelope he had brought to graduation. "This belongs to you," he said. "Your grandmother set it aside years ago. It has been growing ever since." I took the envelope, but I didn't open it. "I know what you're thinking," I said, looking at my parents. "You're wondering if I'll share it, if I'll use it to cover Meredith's wedding, if I'll help with the next renovation or whatever else you suddenly need." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. "I'm not going to do that." "Grace," Meredith said, finally speaking up. "That is incredibly selfish. Grandma wanted me to have it," I said. "Not you, me." "But we're family." "Family?" I almost laughed. "You're using that word now? After posting smiling photos from Paris while I was lying in a hospital bed?" Meredith's face tightened. "I didn't know it was that serious." "Because you didn't ask." She went quiet. I turned back to Mom. "I'm not accepting this gift to hurt you. I'm accepting it because it's mine. Because Grandma wanted me to have choices. She wanted me to have a future that didn't depend on people who treated me like an afterthought." Dad's voice was low. "What about us? Are we just supposed to lose you?" "You already did," I said softly. "Years ago, when you stopped showing up, when you stopped asking how I was, when you let me disappear right in front of you." I paused. "But I'm not closing the door forever. If you want to be in my life, really in my life, then you have to earn that place. You have to see me as Grace, not as Eleanor's shadow, not as Meredith's backup, just me." Mom's voice was small. "And if we try, then maybe we start over," I said, slowly, with boundaries. "What kind of boundaries?" I looked her directly in the eye. I'll tell you when I'm ready. Meredith moved first. She grabbed her shopping bags, her face tight with anger. This is insane, she said. You're tearing this family apart over money. This isn't about money, Meredith. Really? Because it sounds like I was in a hospital bed after a major operation, I said, and you went shopping. She froze. I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty. I'm saying it because you need to hear it. You need to understand what it felt like to wake up, reach for my phone, and see my family smiling in Paris like nothing had happened. Her lower lip trembled. For one brief second, I saw something shift behind Meredith's eyes. Something almost like understanding. Then it disappeared. She grabbed her bags and walked out. The door clicked shut behind her. Mom was crying now. Not the polished kind of crying she used when people were watching. These were real tears. Quiet, messy, and impossible to perform. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Grace. I know. I was wrong. I was so wrong. I know, Mom. But I don't know how to fix it. Neither do I said. Not yet. I paused, choosing every word carefully. But if you really want to try, then you need help. Real help. Talk to someone, a therapist. Work through whatever Grandma Eleanor made you feel, so you stop putting that pain on me. Mom nodded and wiped her face. Then she left without another word. After that, it was just me, Dad, Grandpa, and Rachel. Dad sat down heavily in the chair beside my bed. Grace, he said quietly, I failed you. Yes. I should have protected you. Yes. I told myself you were strong, that you didn't need me the same way Meredith did, but that was just an excuse. It was. Then, maybe for the first time in my life, he really looked at me. Not past me, not through me, at me. I can't erase 22 years, he said, but can I try to do better? I studied his face. The regret looked real. Call me next week, I said. Actually call me. Ask how I'm doing, and then listen to the answer. He nodded. Then he stood, gently squeezed my hand once, and said, I will. And then he was gone too. 2 weeks later, I was released from the hospital with good news from the doctors. The tumor was gone. They said I was lucky. I called it a second chance. I didn't move back home. Instead, I used a small part of Grandma's gift to rent a tiny apartment near the school where I would start teaching in the fall. It wasn't fancy. 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, a window overlooking a parking lot. But it was mine. And that made it feel bigger than any house I had ever lived in. The fallout happened quickly. Meredith blocked me on every social media platform. Her new bio said, "Some people don't appreciate family." I took a screenshot and sent it to Rachel. Rachel replied with a very colorful string of angry emojis. 2 days later, Rachel called me sounding almost too excited. "You are not going to believe this." "What?" Tyler heard the whole story. Apparently, his mother heard it from someone connected to the hospital, and now he's reconsidering the engagement. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. That's not what I wanted. I know, Rachel said, but still. A week after that, I noticed the engagement party photos had disappeared from Facebook. Then the engagement announcement was gone, too. Mom texted me. "Meredith is devastated. I hope you're happy." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "I'm not happy that she's hurting, but I'm not responsible for what happened either." Mom didn't respond. Dad, to his credit, called the following Tuesday, exactly when he said he would. "Hi, Grace." "Hi, Dad. How are you feeling?" "Better. Still tired, but better." There was a pause. Then he asked, "What did you have for dinner last night?" I almost smiled. It was such a small question, but he had never asked it before. "Pasta," I said, "with Rachel." "That sounds nice." It was awkward, careful, uncomfortable, but it was something, and for now, something was enough. 3 months later, I was standing in my new classroom, arranging desks for 26 eighth graders who would arrive on Monday. Rachel was helping me hang posters, or more accurately, she was judging my poster placement while eating my chips. "A little to the left," she said with her mouth full. I moved the poster. "No, your other left. I don't know why I keep you around. Because I'm delightful, and you love me." I couldn't argue with that. The room was slowly starting to feel like mine. Bookshelves I had found at a thrift store, a reading corner with mismatched pillows, a bulletin board that said, "Every voice matters." Then my phone buzzed. Grandpa. "How's the classroom coming along?" "Almost done." "Are we still having dinner Sunday?" "Wouldn't miss it." I could hear the smile in his voice. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you, Grace, building your own classroom, your own life." My eyes stung. I wish I had known her. "You would have loved each other." He paused. "Speaking of your grandmother, I found something while cleaning out the attic." "What?" "A letter. She wrote it before she passed. It's addressed to my future granddaughter." I gripped the phone tighter. "She wrote me a letter?" 25 years ago, Grandpa said. "Before your mother was even pregnant. Somehow Eleanor just knew." "What does it say?" "That's for you to find out. I'll bring it Sunday." After we hung up, I sat down in my teacher's chair, the chair I would use every day for the next school year. Rachel dropped into one of the student desks. "You okay?" "She wrote me a letter before I was even born." Rachel's eyes widened. "That's kind of amazing." "Yeah," I said, looking around the classroom, at the books, at the desks, at the life I was building from the beginning. "It is." Outside, the sun was setting. Golden light poured through the windows, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. 1 month later, there was a knock on my apartment door. It was Sunday afternoon. When I opened it, Dad was standing there with a cardboard box in his arms. "Hi, Grace." I blinked. "Dad, I wasn't expecting you." "I know, I should have called." He shifted the box awkwardly. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside and let him enter. My apartment was small, but it felt warm now. Plants in the window, photos on the shelf, Rachel and me at graduation, Grandpa and me at a restaurant, drawings from my students pinned carefully to the wall. Dad looked around, taking it all in. "You've made this place nice." "Thanks." He set the box on my tiny kitchen table. "I brought you something." "What is it?" "Open it." I pulled back the cardboard flaps. Inside were photo albums, old books, and a hand-embroidered handkerchief. My breath caught. Grandma Eleanor's things. Dad looked down. "Your mother was going to get rid of them. I couldn't let that happen." I lifted the handkerchief carefully. Delicate flowers were stitched along the edges, and the initials ED rested neatly in the corner. "Dad," I whispered, "I don't know what to say." "I know I can't repair 22 years, he said, his voice rough. "I know I let you down in ways I can never fully take back, but I wanted you to have these. I wanted you to know where you come from." I set the handkerchief down carefully and looked at him. For the first time, my father looked older than I remembered. Tired, unsure, like a man finally standing in front of the truth and realizing he could not look away anymore. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today," he said quietly. "I'm just asking for the chance to do better." I thought about all the birthdays he had missed emotionally, even when he was standing in the same room. I thought about the empty seats, the silence, the times I had needed him and he had chosen not to notice. But I also thought about the Tuesday phone calls. Awkward, careful, sometimes uncomfortable, but there, every single week. Finally, I said, "Okay." He looked up. "Okay?" "Okay," I repeated. "You can try." I paused. "But Dad, trying means showing up, not just when it's easy, not just when it doesn't cost you anything." He swallowed hard and nodded. "I understand." I studied him for a moment, then stepped toward the kitchen. "Do you want coffee?" For the first time that afternoon, he almost smiled. "I'd like that." 6 months after graduation, I was sitting at my desk after the final bell. The classroom was quiet now. 26 chairs, 26 stories, 26 kids who would come back tomorrow expecting me to teach them how to find their voices, even when the world tried to make them feel small. There was a soft knock on my door. "Miss Donovan?" It was Marcus, one of my quieter students, 13 years old, always in the back row, always listening, rarely speaking. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." He stepped into the room, shifting his backpack on one shoulder. "Did you ever feel like—" He looked down at the floor. "Like no one really sees you?" My heart tightened. Yes, I said honestly. For a long time I felt exactly like that. He looked up. What did you do? I took a moment before answering. I found the people who did see me, I said. My grandfather, my best friend. Then I placed a hand gently over my chest. And eventually, I learned to see myself. That's it? I gave him a small smile. That's a lot harder than it sounds. But once you understand your own worth, you stop needing everyone else to prove it to you. Marcus nodded slowly. Thanks, Miss Donovan. After he left, I stayed at my desk a little longer. On my phone, there was a photo I looked at sometimes. It was one Grandpa had found in the box of Eleanor's things. I was barely a year old, sitting in my grandmother's lap. I didn't remember the moment, of course. But in the picture, she was smiling down at me like I was the most important person in the world. For so long I thought love was something I had to earn, by being useful, by staying quiet, by helping, by achieving, by asking for nothing and giving everything. Now I know better. Love is who shows up. Love is who stays. Love is who sees you when you have nothing to offer but yourself. And I don't need to exhaust myself trying to prove I deserve a place in someone's heart. I know my worth now. That is enough. More than enough. 1 year after graduation, my phone rang while I was grading papers. It was a number I hadn't seen in months. Meredith. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered. Grace? Her voice was smaller than I had ever heard it. Can we talk? I'm listening. There was silence on the other end before she said, Tyler left. For real this time. She gave a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. Apparently, his family didn't want him marrying into a family that leaves people alone when they need them most. I said nothing. And Her voice cracked. I got into debt. Credit cards. I thought Tyler would help cover it, but now he's gone and I don't know what to do. I closed my eyes. Why are you calling me? Because you're the only person who doesn't want something from me. Her voice broke completely then. Mom and Dad are furious. They keep saying I embarrassed them. My friends only liked me because of Tyler's money, and She started crying, real tears. The kind you cannot fake. Part of me wanted to say, now you know how it feels. Now you know what it feels like to be alone. Now you know what it feels like when people only love the version of you that benefits them. But that was not the person I wanted to become. Meredith, I said carefully, I'm sorry about Tyler, and I'm sorry you're hurting. She sniffed. But I can't fix this for you. I can't pay off your debt. I can't bring Tyler back. That is not my role anymore. Silence. Then she whispered, Then why did you answer? Because you're my sister, I said, and I wanted you to know I don't hate you. She was quiet for a long time. I was terrible to you, she said. Yes. I don't even know why. I never had to try. Everything was always handed to me, and you worked so hard for everything. I think I was jealous. Maybe. Can we ever be okay? I thought about that. Really thought about it. I don't know, I said honestly. But if you're willing to do the work, I'm willing to try. Really? Really. But Meredith, you have to actually change, not just say you will. I know. I hope you do. 2 years after graduation, I sat in a crowded auditorium, waiting for Grandpa Howard to take the stage. A banner hung behind the podium, Community Educator of the Year Award. Rachel was beside me, dressed up for once. I can't believe he's finally getting recognized, she whispered. He deserves it 10 times over. Then the announcer called his name. The audience applauded as Grandpa walked slowly to the podium. 80 years old, but still standing tall. He adjusted the microphone, scanned the audience, and when his eyes found mine, he smiled. Thank you for this honor, he began, but I want to dedicate this award to someone else, my granddaughter, Grace. My breath caught. 2 years ago, I watched this young woman collapse on stage at her graduation. She was facing a serious medical crisis, and for a moment, we almost lost her. The room went completely quiet. When she woke up, she had to face a truth no young person should have to face. Some of the people who should have been there for her were not. I felt Rachel's hand slip into mine. But Grace did not let that harden her heart, Grandpa continued. She did not let it define her. Instead, she built a life filled with people who love her for who she is, not for what she can do for them. His voice trembled. She teaches now. Every day she reminds young people that their voices matter. She sees the students who feel overlooked. She gives them the kind of attention every child deserves. He paused, blinking back tears. My Eleanor once told me, "The people the world forgets are often the ones who need us to remember them most." Grace taught me what those words truly mean. Tears were running down my face now. Rachel was crying too. Grandpa lifted the award slightly toward me. "This belongs to you, sweetheart, for having the courage to choose yourself." After the ceremony, I hugged him so tightly I thought I might never let go. "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, Grace." He kissed the top of my head. "Your grandmother would be so proud." I closed my eyes. "I know," I whispered. "I finally know. My family is complicated. Maybe it always will be. Dad still calls every Tuesday. Mom sends cards on holidays now. Careful, polite cards with handwriting that looks like she thought about every word. Meredith is getting help. We text sometimes, slowly, carefully. But my real family? They are the people who showed up, the ones who stayed. Rachel, Grandpa, my students, and finally, myself. If you've stayed with me this long, then I want to leave you with this. I used to wonder why my mother couldn't love me the way I needed her to, why I had to work twice as hard for half the recognition, why I felt invisible inside my own family. Now I understand more than I did before. My mother wasn't some storybook villain. She was a wounded person who never healed from her own pain. She saw her mother-in-law in my face, and instead of facing that wound, she let it shape the way she treated me for 22 years. But understanding someone's pain does not mean accepting the harm they caused. And me? My weakness was my need for approval. I kept believing that if I tried harder, helped more, achieved enough, and asked for less, then one day they would finally see me. That is what people-pleasing does. It teaches you to trade pieces of yourself for the hope of being loved. Maybe it helped me survive when I was younger, but as an adult, it nearly cost me everything. The medical crisis that happened at graduation was the most frightening thing I have ever lived through. But in a strange way, it also gave me clarity. It forced me to see my family exactly as they were, and more importantly, it forced me to see myself. Not as the forgotten daughter, not as Meredith's backup, not as someone's reminder of the past, just Grace. A woman with her own life, her own future, her own voice. And this time, I'm using it. It gave me permission to stop performing for people who were never truly paying attention. So this is what I learned, and I hope you carry it with you. You cannot earn love from people who have already decided not to give it freely. You do not have to keep breaking yourself just to make other people comfortable, especially when they refuse to notice what it costs you. Your real family is not always defined by the people who share your last name. It is defined by the people who stand beside you when everything falls apart. And most importantly, you are allowed to choose yourself. That is not selfish. That is how you survive. So if you are living through something like I did, if you are the invisible one, the forgotten one, the person everyone depends on but no one truly checks on, I want you to know this. I see you. And I hope one day you understand what took me so long to learn. The approval you have been chasing may never come from them, but it can come from you. And when it does, everything changes. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If you have your own story about family, boundaries, healing, or finally learning your worth, share it in the comments. I really do read them. And if this story meant something to you, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next one. There is another story waiting in the description, and something tells me you will want to hear it. Until next time.